Hello, everyone. I hope you are all well. My name is Matthew Varnovitsky, and you are watching Through the Islets. Today, I have a very special guest. Frank Dimatteo grew up with influence from the Gallo brothers, the Genovese crime family, and Frank Costello. He's going to tell his brave story of how he left the mob and how he's trying to transition into a more normal life. Here comes Frank.
Oh,
Rico! Oh, I'm so sorry. Of no relation to Frank Dimatteo, Rico is a goaltender for the Lone Star Brahmas of the North American Hockey League. He was a CCHL All-Star Game attendee, a CCHL All-Star Selects goalie versus the University of Massachusetts Lowell, and he was also through this time a member of the Cornwall Colts, and he is now a Northern Michigan commit for the 2021-2022 season. Sorry, Rico, about that. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. You are currently in Texas, I believe, correct?
I am. That's right.
So what's your plan these days?
So right now I'm kind of packing things up, and I'm getting ready to head into Northern Michigan this Sunday, and looking forward to a smooth transition into a college setting.
Okay, so you're already beginning that process. I'm sure that has to do with the current, the status quo, I should say, because of this, novel virus and what's happening, I guess, right?
Yep, a little bit to do with that.
Mm-hmm. And have you guys been playing Northern Michigan?
Yeah, Northern Michigan's been kind of off and on. Obviously, the virus has impacted their schedule a little bit. Postponing games every other week has kind of been the theme, but hopefully they'll be able to get in a good amount of games until the end of February, early March.
Mm-hmm. And you're still not sure what you're going to study. You're just going there to get ready for the life, kind of.
Yeah, everything's kind of happening pretty quickly right now. My plan is to go undeclared, and because of COVID, this is kind of like a free year for me. I'll still be a freshman next year, so that'll give me some extra time to think about what I really want to study moving into my true freshman year, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, listen, all the guys were very excited when you announced your commitment. We've been anticipating it for a while in Cornwall, and when we knew you really well, you were a native of you're a native of Brazier Falls, New York, which is close by. So some of the guys live there, and you guys always have good stories. So I'm just very curious, what was minor hockey like for you growing up there?
Yeah, it wasn't too serious, I guess you could say. I'm not sure. We always had a really good team, a small community of, a couple thousand people at most, and hockey was a passion just about for everyone in the community. So luckily for me, I was always on a really good team growing up, up until my Bantam years, and fortunately I had the experience of playing high school hockey my freshman and sophomore year, and it was probably the most fun I've ever had playing hockey was high school hockey, just the atmosphere and being with, the group of friends you grew up with every single day on the ice. And that's something I definitely miss. And even, and I guess you say minor hockey, when I was a squirt to a Bantam, we were fortunate enough to win 4 or 5 tier 3 state championships. And, those were memories I made with just a select group of guys that I'll never forget.
And I think it's really interesting you mentioned that because a very wise man told me at a development camp once, being complimentary of my game, that there really is no right path. It comes down to the character of a kid a lot. You could be from a remote area or you could be from an area where there might not be much exposure. But if you love the game enough and you're committed and you have the grit factor, you can go just about anywhere you want. So I find it really interesting that you're from rural New York, and the opportunities may not be as vast as it might be in an area like more Ottawa City or Toronto or New York City. So it's cool that you mentioned that you played high school hockey and still have been able to achieve what you have so far.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Been an awesome road so far.
Yeah. And how many rinks are there around Brazier Falls?
Rinks, we've been rink spoiled, kind of around my area. Brazier only has one rink, the Tri-Town Community Center, which is always packed every night if there's a high school hockey game going on, or minor hockey practices. But luckily for us, 15 minutes down the road is two local colleges, SUNY Potsdam and Clarkson University, and those have always been open to us growing up. So we've been super lucky, and we've had those resources.
Yeah, and that's part of what's cool about Cornwall is that the border is so close, and SUNY Potsdam's close, Clarkson's University close. So I know a lot of guys would like to go there and watch the games, and it's just great. Also, St. Lawrence University is close by, so it's great that for us who played in the Central Canada Hockey League, that the scouts don't have to travel very far, and I think that's what makes leagues like the United States Hockey League and the North American Hockey League and even the National Collegiate Development Conference so beneficial to guys because of the scouts don't have to travel very far to find good talent. It's the location sometimes. So I think that's really cool, and the leagues in the States are good.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But anyway, so you had your minor hockey experience, and you actually were fortunate enough to stay pretty local, entering the Cornwall Colts organization as a 17-year-old. And I know that was a bumpy year. There was maybe some things that happened that you didn't expect to happen, just life. But do you think when you entered, there were any adjustments you made into your everyday life or routine?
No question. My first year in Cornwall, I was just coming off of a pretty bumpy year also in my prep school at Northwood Prep. So I was definitely ready for a change and ready to kind of start my junior hockey career and see what junior hockey was all about. And that first year, like you said, it was kind of bumpy again. I don't think I was necessarily mature enough to be a starting goalie in a junior hockey setting yet. So luckily, I had Michael Carr, who was a 20-year-old age out at the time, who really handled himself professionally, even playing in the CCHL. And just being around him, I matured a ton and realized I can soak up and learn everything from this guy. And I tried to learn as much as I could from him, and that just made my transition into the next year, a lot easier. I felt I was a lot more focused the summer going in, and just ready to play. So I thank him a lot for handling himself just the way he did that year, just so I could learn from him.
And I find it really interesting that you mentioned the transition from Northwood to Cornwall, because I know a lot of guys, especially in their 17-year-old year, they feel as though they might have done enough in their 16-year-old year to make the jump. And when you're in your 17-year-old year and you feel like you're playing against or with guys that might not have the same maturity or compete level or desire to play, it can be frustrating. And was it that kind of case at Northwood?
100%. I don't think I was, I guess, the best fit for a prep school setting. Really trying to find myself, I guess you could say. And I always had this burning desire to play hockey. But, I also think at Northwood there's a gigantic social piece to it that I just didn't quite understand. And, it made me a little bit unsure of, me as a hockey player. And, once I went to Cornwall that next year, I realized, like, this is all hockey. This is all hockey. There's nothing to it. I don't care what anyone else is going to think of me, and I'm just going to work hard and I'm going to get better. And that's why I think that transition from Northwood to Cornwall was the best possible thing for me at that time.
I have to agree. The same with my transition from midget to Cornwall, and I think the social aspect is something a lot of people from the outside looking in can't get a grasp of, because for example, I'm someone that's very extroverted, and I found even in an environment where I could express myself a lot, it maybe wasn't the best for my maturity, and I actually learned the importance of sometimes being introverted, being independent. I found that in Cornwall, I really was able to polish those skills and just become a grown up. So for a person like yourself, Cornwall is perfect, and for anyone else that's just trying to grow up or become more mature, the independence period where you're kind of adjusting to being a man is such a great thing. And the prep school environment, I'm sure there are a lot of distractions, dorms, guys together, and different guys have different focuses, and maybe you're trying to focus on something, but another guy's yapping in the back. And so that's a great point that you made. I think the independence portion is huge, and your environment can definitely put you on a specific path. So that was a really great point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's that transition period's huge. I know that when I was playing midget my second year, the combinations of academics and the hockey, it felt as though I wanted to put more focus into hockey, and the hockey opportunity didn't feel it didn't feel like there was as much hockey on a weekly basis as I wanted it to be. And there wasn't that same connection with the guys. So I felt when I got to Cornwall and there was this establishment of guys that were there before and the coaching staff and all that, that it was a really cool culture shock and definitely molded me into a different person.
No, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But so yeah, but and you mentioned that in your first year it was bumpy. Are you talking from like the standpoint of injuries or?
Yeah, I've unfortunately in my short junior career here, I've been plagued with a couple injuries. In that first year in Cornwall, it was probably the worst of it. I had a concussion, and I was caught in this awkward situation where I was a 17-year-old coming in, haven't established myself as a true junior player yet, and knew I was able to play at this level. And it was my first junior game. I got hit pretty hard with a guy driving to the net, and I wasn't right after that. And I figured, okay, I'm going to try to play through this. I'm going to try to play through it and try to just stay on the team. I was worried about losing my spot. And eventually it got to the point where guys are coming down, taking shots at me, and I'm not seeing pucks go by. So at that point, I had to say something. I had to do something, and it ended up being 10 weeks later that I got into my next junior game. So that was a tough period, kind of just staying stagnant and wondering what my uncertain future was going to hold.
Yeah, and it's the injury plague is something that every guy experiences differently at different points throughout their hockey career. It's just the unfortunate truth of pursuing the game. But for yourself, there's a huge, I guess, lesson period that comes from it, and looking back, how you view what you were going through, and I'm sure there were many challenges from it that only made you stronger today.
No question. I was definitely a better goalie because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the scary part about junior is you only have so much time to prove yourself, and we'll get into your further success later. But I can imagine that you were very antsy to get back at it and prove yourself.
No question. The fire always burns. Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and one thing I think that adds to your mental toughness and your philosophy is your love for reading books. This was something we bonded over in Cornwall, and how has reading played a major role in your growth? And are there any other methods you use to strengthen your mental edge?
Yeah, I'm always trying to find something new, something different that I can do to make me sharper, make me more focused, more disciplined almost. And since my time in Cornwall, like you said, my love for books has not changed. And my love for reading books mostly on the mental side, that's mainly what I do. And I'd say things like that, they just sharpen your focus, your ability to focus on words on a page for an extended period of time is proven to help your athletic focus and in a game situation. I've also added, cold exposure, ice
Uh-huh.
baths and cold showers. I try to get a cold shower in every day, and same thing, scientifically proven to help with your focus, and it's a discipline thing at the end of the day. You wake up, the first thing you don't want to do is get in a cold shower. I can guarantee that. And if you have the mental edge to say, you know, I'm going to do it, it's going to make me feel better, and it's going to give me an edge the rest of the day, like, you'll get through it, and you're just better because of it. So
Yeah, and you know, it just speaks volume to your character. With the reading as well, it's also proven that you know, reading for long term, the more you read, the more you kind of get improvement in like empathy and intelligence. So
yep.
I always felt comfortable talking to you about things and just engaging in conversation. I find it interesting that you mentioned the cold shower routine. I started that in Cornwall as well,
Hmm.
and I've never actually done an ice bath. That was something that wasn't didn't look like something I wanted to do after practice. But as of late, I kind of veered off the cold showers, just you know, through living at home, and you know, that's something I only do after workouts now when I'm really hot. But it's a discipline thing, because I don't want to do it. So,
For
and then
sure.
once you do it, you build that habit. It becomes a really special thing.
For sure, man.
Yeah. And are there any influencers that you like? I know maybe just to get the ball rolling, some guys that I've liked listening to are Jocko Willink,
Yep.
David Goggins, you know, hardcore guys that were in the military. So you
Yeah.
also?
I actually have a right next to me is a Jocko Willink book I just finished. I think he's awesome. I love his mindset, and you know, I've definitely soaked up some strategies, mental strategies from him. But I gotta say that other guy you mentioned is my favorite, though, David Goggins. I know last year, summer before going into my last year in Cornwall, I listened to David Goggins's audiobook, and
Mm.
it was "Can't Hurt Me," and you know, that just listening to that book, something resonated with me, and that's something I've, you know, just that mindset he carries has kind of always been there with me ever since listening to that book. You know, you got to suffer every day, and I tell myself that every day, and that kind of just puts me in the mindset of, you know, certain things aren't going to go your way. You know, life kind of sucks, but you know, those parts of life that suck or you might be uncomfortable with, like, you're just going to be stronger if you go through it with the right mindset. And I've only found success with that strategy. And I think that and the cold showers, you know, that's also kind of like I'm going to go suffer for a little bit. So
Yeah, and you also mentioned to me last year when we were together that you know, when you keep making yourself accustomed to being uncomfortable,
yeah.
it'll make you'll be able to adapt to any situation, because a lot of people have this preconceived fear, whether it's being in large gatherings or whether it's meeting new people or whether it's going to a job interview, whatever fears people may have. If you just suck it up, embrace the suck essentially, and go
Yep.
through it, it's just going to become a normality. Just facing challenges, and guys like Jocko and David, you know, their resume and background speaks for themselves. They're both, you know, served long times in the military. Both received awards for it. I know Goggins might be the first person to ever do 2 Hell Weeks in a row,
Yep.
or within the same year, something of that nature. But his story is very motivational. How he went from being overweight to taking real responsibility in his life, and they're both true patriots. You know, they represent something much more than themselves. You know, they're real proud Americans, and I always get great motivation just from hearing their wisdom and how they deal with struggles.
Absolutely. It's super inspiring.
Yeah, and I think it's the kind of motivation we need these days. You know, the kind of people you look up to, because a lot of people these days have been focused on outside, you know, third party kind of influences where, you know, it's basically out of your control. And I get it. It kind of comes with not having structure in your life, or not having anything else to do. So you turn on the TV and you see what's happening in the world. But these guys, I think, really put into perspective the focus on, you know, investing in yourself and making sure you're a better person every day, because that's how the world will become a better place if we all just worry about ourselves and be the best we can.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't
Yeah.
agree.
But yeah, just great. It's great that we got into that. But you know, back to hockey. That year in Cornwall, you know, you were stealing games for us. You were the backbone we needed through all our struggles. And you were rewarded for that. You were named to the All-Star game in the Central Canada Hockey League and the Selects team game versus the University of Massachusetts Lowell of the NCAA Division One. So talk about those experiences for us and your preparation for each game.
Yeah, like, it all kind of just happened. Like these are all things, I didn't set goals to do these things or look forward to them. I was what I'm really happy about that year was just staying focused where I was and taking it one day at a time, whether it was showing up to practice, ready to go, preparing myself for that practice so I could give myself the best chance to get better. And I think just with that mindset, it led me to the All-Star game selection and also performing, having a good performance at that UMass Lowell game. So it was just, a great mental year for me. And I'm glad I have those, achievements to look back on to give me confidence right now.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you mentioned that because you were always a huge advocate for living in the moment, keeping your mind in the present. And that's something you always tried to tell me. And it's just I think it's imperative that you mentioned it because if you're too worried about the All-Star game or this and that, you're going to lose focus on each task at hand. And for you, it was the same attention of detail you had to every practice, before practice, during practice, after practice, making sure you're ready for the next day before the games, and all those little things added up, and you were ready for that. So that's a great point you made.
No question.
So talk about the CCHL All-Star game first. So talk about that from the day of to after the game. So what happened?
Yeah, so I could remember we just came off a 3-4. We played Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. I ended up playing all 3 games that week leading up. I think I found out I had made the All-Star game on that Saturday. So it all happened pretty quick. And I can remember the All-Star game was on a Monday. So it was after our 3rd game of that week. I remember driving up with my dad and my teammate Emmerich Nadeau.
Correct.
We get there and my eyes are half shut. My legs are burning sore. And I get in there and, I tried to treat it exactly like I would a normal game. So I went, just did my routine, was ready to go. I was ready to go to start the game. And the coach comes up to me and tells me, yep, you're going to play the 3rd period. That's it. And I was like, oh boy, okay, whatever. And, coaches came in and pretty much said, this game's a selection process. We're gonna take the best players in this game. We're gonna go to UMass Lowell and we're gonna play them. So I was like, oh boy, I kind of want to do that. And unfortunately, I wasn't the most prepared person at that game. So period 1 goes by. My mind's kind of out of it. Period 2 goes by. Tried to get into it, still not into it. And 3rd period came and I probably had one of the worst performances of the year, in any game. So I was like, oh boy, I just blew my chances for that. But I remember leaving the rink and my dad and I were talking, we were laughing. Hey, no way you're going to go to UMass Lowell. No way. And don't you know it, a couple of days later, my name's on the sheet to go to UMass Lowell. Luckily, they overlooked that one game for, I guess, my performances the rest of the year. So I was grateful to get that opportunity.
Well, I think there was some controversy as well. Were you guys late to the game?
We weren't super late to the game. We were probably the last ones there. I don't remember why. I think we hit a little bit of traffic and a certain roadway was blocked, so we had to take a detour. And yeah, so we were a little late to the game, and mentally just not in it.
Oh yeah, well you get hockeyed out in a 62 game schedule.
Yep.
Where a guy like yourself led the league in games as a goaltender. So 55 games is nothing to sneeze at. So yeah, you're gonna get tired. But was a certain Emmerich Nadeau on time? Was he dragging you guys down, or he did his part? He showed up.
No, he was on time. It was mine and my father's fault, I'd say. Mostly mine.
Just tired, just not into it really.
It's just maybe overslept on the way at home the night prior, and just dragging out of bed a little bit and
Yeah.
a little bit late. So
Yeah, man. If I were you, knowing myself, I probably would have tried to negotiate the All-Star game, maybe push it to another date.
yeah,
But I know you. You're not the kind of guy to do that. You're a little less naive and a little more prepared for things. So it's cool you went through. What was the final score of that game?
oof, I can't remember. I know. I think it was 3-2. Um, I know I gave up both goals on my end. We won, so
There you go.
barely snuck by.
Well, yeah, in a game setting like that, it's all for show. And when you have two or three goalies on your team, and you're going to play only one portion of the game, it's maybe not the best. It's just not the most fortunate situation to do warm up and then sit on the bench for 2 periods and
Right.
intermissions to watch the game. So I can understand from your end the combination of being tired and then having to watch other guys play can be a bit defeating. So, well, you got through it, and then you were selected to the UMass Lowell game. So, talk about that experience from start to finish.
Yeah, definitely, hands down, the highlight of my career in total. It was super special to be able to do that with the best of the CCHL, and I'm super happy with the way I handled it mentally, and just saw it as an opportunity, nothing to lose, and you know, touring the facility beforehand and just kind of getting that experience was super cool, and then just after that, flipping the switch and saying this is business as usual. So I was happy I was able to do that and handle it well mentally, and then I just got on the ice and the lights hit you and it's game on. So it was awesome to experience that, and I'm super happy with the way I handled it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I know you were successful. You played the second half of the game as well,
Yep.
but you were dialed in. I don't think you allowed any goals, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Yeah, and how did you guys fare against that team?
We lost 2-1. Unfortunately, I mean, it was actually no, we lost 3-1, empty net at the end.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, but we hung with them. We got our chances, but at the end of the day, they played with systems, and we were just out there going, doing whatever we wanted. So I was happy with the way we competed against them. I mean, we definitely held our own. So.
And was it so business as usual that you didn't meet any new guys or make any friends, or were you just so dialed in? Or
No, on the way up there, it was kind of cool just to interact with the guys I was playing against on other teams. Like,
oh,
you make connections like just by battling every night against these guys, and these are the top guys on other teams, and you get to interact with them and build those relationships and come together as a group and then play one game against a really good hockey team. So.
yeah, and I can imagine that was a really good experience. So you guys got to tour the facility. Did you guys get to watch a game as well, or?
We didn't get to. Well, we got to. We watched on our way up. We stopped in Vermont, to the University of Vermont. We ended up watching Lake Superior State play Providence College.
Mm-hmm.
They had a tournament going on. It was a holiday tournament, so we stopped there, watched that game. It was an afternoon game, really quickly, and then finished our trip up to Lowell after that.
Excellent, excellent. And were you during that time? I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it, but did you talk to any of the teams in the college loop then, or?
Yeah, I won't name names, but I guess you could say I opened some eyes that weekend and kind of made a name for myself. That's when things
Excellent.
started to get interesting.
Very well said. Well, after that very successful season with Cornwall, with the combination of the pandemic and just for yourself having to go to a better league, you made the decision to go down south, and south as in the great state of Texas. So why the Lone Star Brahmas, and how would you assess the transition thus far?
Yeah, so the summer leading up, obviously with the pandemic, I was a little bit unsure what I was going to do. Fortunately, I got drafted to the USHL and the North American Hockey League to the Lone Star Brahmas. I had talked to Lone Star kind of leading up to the draft and made it clear that if I was to get drafted in the North American League, I wanted it to be to Lone Star. And fortunately, we made some things work, and they were able to take me with their first pick. And just the enthusiasm and just the emotion they showed just over the phone talking to them, I knew right away. I was like, I want to go here. I want to play for these people who love hockey this much, and I'm glad I made the decision I did. Obviously, it turned out Texas was one of the few states early on to play through the pandemic. So from ice availability, it made really like a lot of sense there, and also just the professionalism of the organization. I couldn't have been happier.
Yeah, and I think the combination of having your options narrowed down and it just being a great program, it's kind of a no-brainer. So, did you find moving away from home there were any challenges early on?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a transition mentally, I'd say for sure. But once you get into that routine, like for me, there's nothing else to worry about. Obviously, moving away from my family, that's kind of the first time I've ever did that. So that was a little bit of a change, but like I said, like once you're in that routine and you're focused on it, there's not a lot of outside distraction.
Yeah, every guy goes through it differently, but the focus on hockey kind of makes you not worry about where your family is or where you are. And I know the Null is a really good league that's more than up and coming. It's already established as probably the if not the best junior league. And I believe I met actually someone in part of that staff. I think Andrew Whiteside was
Yep.
with the Wilkes-Barre Scranton, I guess, Penguins before. No, not Penguins, Knights. And
Yep.
I spoke to him on the phone and just to learn about his program. And it's cool to learn from those guys, even though you're not ready to go there yet or you don't plan on going there. And they take it really seriously. For yourself, you guys every day would have the morning workout and then the game and then the practice and video, right?
Yep. Every single day, it was a pretty disciplined, structured schedule. So it was definitely a change from Cornwall.
And what were your road trips like?
Road trips weren't too bad. We're an hour and a half down the road to Wichita Falls, 3 hours to Amarillo, and our longest trip is Odessa, which is about 6 hours. But
Mhm.
the hotel accommodations are pretty nice, and even if they weren't, you still got to find a way to get everything done. So to prepare yourself the right way, and I think it was just a really good warm up for college, what I'm going to see in college. And
Mhm.
the schedule's based the same. We play 2 games on the weekends, very similar to a college schedule, and that's also another reason why I picked the North American Hockey League.
Yeah, and there's a lot of exposure there. Lone Star especially is a pristine organization. They've had a lot of goalie commits and player commits as well. Was there special goalie training as well?
Yeah, that was something they were really happy about, and they sold me with their program. Was their goalie coach Christian Fry, who I was lucky to work with this year, and he's a young new face in the goaltending coaching community, and he had a lot of insight and a really good career as well.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's cool, and that they take it so seriously, and it's great preparation for college. So we just learned, I guess, a lot of differences between the CCHL and the NAL because the CCHL, at least was Cornwall, we didn't have consistent workouts. The gym was just open to ourselves, but we wouldn't have to be up early together as a team working out, and then practice would be usually be the same time after school, and then our games were all pretty local. The furthest game we'd go to Pembroke for 3 hour drive twice a year, so. But from an on ice perspective, how would you compare the two leagues?
Yeah, I'd say, there's definitely the Carlton Place and OJS of the CC is a team I feel like could hang with any team in the NOL. I'd say the NOL and the NOL South especially is, a really tough league to play in. A lot of systems, very structured, and the lines 1 through 4 on every team can, put the puck in the net and are a danger. So I'd say compared to the CCHL, the NOL South is, stronger from head to toe, lines 1 through 4, and just play a much more structured game. And, it's a lot of pucks to the net and a lot of rebounds. And, like I said, just that structured style of play.
Yeah. Do you find it's also more physical?
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a lot of bigger guys down here, more physical, and games played on the walls. And if you get caught on the wall, and if you don't know how to handle a puck on a wall, you're gonna get your bell rung.
Well, that's a great point. You only hear these things, but it's great to get a perspective from someone who's actually going through it. And I was also I really enjoyed my time in the CCHL last year and a little bit this year, but it's obviously not the same. And it's cool that you guys got to play at least different teams in that South division, which is really good.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but yeah, you've been successful there thus far. You started a bit later though, correct? Still dealing with some ailments.
Yeah, like I said, earlier in the talk here, my junior career has been plagued with injury a little bit, and same thing beginning of this year. I blame COVID a little bit. Um, I wasn't able to get on the ice as much as I wanted to in the summer, and I think if I had, I would have been able to address the problem a little sooner before going to Lone Star. But things happen, and I tweaked my hip a little bit, and it's something I'm still dealing with now. But injury's an injury, and I try to perceive it as a positive, no matter how negative it seems to be upfront.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting point that I never thought of because for myself, as a hockey player, this is much different. The skating than the movements of a goaltender in the crease, and I didn't feel like I had any ailments, and I was just hungry to get back on the ice to train. But for a goaltender, it's much different. When you tweak something and don't expose yourself to it. So it's very interesting that you were hit with that predicament.
Absolutely, it was a challenge early on, but something I overcame.
Yeah, and the proof is in the pudding. You were successful for your time in the Null, and it's just coming. It's news to me now that you're leaving already, but
Yep.
you're leaving for a good reason. You committed finally to Northern Michigan University. We all found this out with your announcement on New Year's. So why Northern Michigan? What went behind this decision?
Yeah, so I had a couple offers from different schools, but Northern Michigan, from the time I started talking to them in the summer of this past season to now, or up to the time I committed, they were super professional to me on the phone. They, I guess you could say, gave me the most attention. Every week we were on the phone once or twice a week discussing just how I feel, how'd practice go, how'd this week go, any challenges, and they recruited me hard, and that's, I guess they sold me eventually. So obviously I did my research on every school that had interest in me or gave me an offer, and I decided Northern Michigan's where I wanted to go, just based on the coaching staff and the way they talked to me on the phone.
hmm Yeah, that's awesome, and a lot of it is just getting to know them because a lot of guys, they might have the same shtick or they might not know about you, and it's great that you felt that deep connection with Northern Michigan, and now you're going to experience it. So, I can't stress enough how happy everyone from Cornwall is for you, and even guys were hitting me up that they're excited that I'm doing this interview. So
Yeah.
it's really really cool to catch up with you again and hear that you made this commitment.
No, yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome to hear from the guys back in Cornwall, and just I'll never forget that group of guys we had. It was a lot of fun, and we had some ups, we had some downs, but we went through it together.
Exactly, and has there been any other interest you've had these days in COVID? Any new books or anything you've been watching on TV, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to stay busy, and I guess you could say that's kind of a good thing that I'm going to go back to school. It's going to give me some busy work to do from a school perspective, but as of now, kind of still in a junior setting. I'm reading a ton. I'm always researching ways I could mentally gain an edge. So I've been doing a lot of cold exposure, like I said, and also have been doing research into to breathing exercises and ways I could kind of control my breath to enhance my focus and things like that. So it's been just kind of experimenting with new things and seeing what I like and what I don't like.
That's a great point. That's another method for your mental state. The breathing, meditation is such an important thing that my mom preaches to me, and I kind of am very inconsistent with it. So that's something to look more into. But yeah, staying busy is really important. I've been reading as well lately. I'm reading a book now called Braving the Wilderness, which is by Brene Brown, who is a social scientist, and she talks a lot about everyone has become kind of very very partisan and on one side of things. So that book delves into a lot of social interactions and how to cement yourself as a smart person who can navigate these things. I read a book recently about called In Order to Live. That's about this woman Yeonmi Park, who discusses her growing up in North Korea and the journey to defecting and making her way to the United States. So, I think my point from all of this is that when you read, you really get to live another life and, really gain a perspective on things that you might not have by not reading. So it's such a special thing. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Sure, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, but that's all I have today, Rico. Is there anything else or?
I think I'm good, Varno. I really appreciate your time and for inviting me on here. I had a lot of fun.
Likewise, man. It was great to catch up. So all the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Varno. I hope you're staying busy, bud.
Thank you. All right, everyone. That was my guest, Rico Dimatteo. Great to catch up with him. A great teammate and a great example in life. I hope all of you enjoyed. For more videos, please subscribe. Thank you.